Hello everyone, Alistair Gold here. I know I was only on your screens, 48 hours ago, but I thought, I had a bit of spare time, and with the way the transfer window, the market works right now in the last 7 days of the window, so much happens in such a short space of time. I kind of thought people watching the video from just 2 days ago are seeing various new things that have now started to come out and things that have evolved and situations that weren't there before that are now starting to get to a stage where we can talk about them. And you obviously will be well aware that I am speaking mainly about Luis Diaz, the Porto winger. Tottenham are looking to try and bring him to North London. And the latest that I understand on that situation is that there's a growing hope that they might they might be able to get this deal done. They're absolutely throwing everything at it. That's their priority right now, this transfer. I understand it's at the moment, and I must stress at the moment, because of this way that everything works and transfers and transfer window and other clubs coming in, but at the moment, Spurs are kind of more hopeful of this one happening than the Adama Traore one, which, I wonder, and this is just me kind of speculating. This is just my thoughts. This isn't based on any information, but I wonder whether Traore, now that this sudden realization that Diaz is potentially available, I just wonder now whether Traore slips to the bottom of the priority list. And maybe even Spurs look at it and say, well, should we just keep Matt Doherty to the end of the season? And maybe we get by at right wing back, because quite frankly, the opportunity to sign one of Europe's best players right now, or certainly one of the players that's really making a name for himself this season in Luis Diaz, maybe that's just what we concentrate on. And, and if, say, we end up with, let's say, Diaz and a central midfielder, maybe that's two big chunks of a puzzle. And look, I know a winger was not the club's priority going into this window. Of course it's not. That is one thing they've got. But what I would say is when it's just one of those classic things. When a player like Luis Diaz comes along, I think you just have to go for it and you have to try and make it happen. And he's a player that I understand that Paratici and many within Tottenham really love. And they've been watching on the situation. We've seen everywhere, all the top clubs linked with him. Liverpool, Man United, I think, have been looking at him closely. And I think Spurs have just thought, you know what, maybe this could be a statement signing. Maybe this is someone that we can say to Conte, look, do this, have him. And here you go, this is us backing you. So yeah, from what I understand, there's a hope. There's a hope. Look, we've been here before, of course we have. There's been plenty of cases where Tottenham have tried to sign someone and it hasn't happened. You can all, of course, throw out the names like Dybala, Bruno Fernandes, Dusan Vlahovic currently looks like another one to add to that list. And, there's, Jack Grealish, we know they messed that right up right at the end. That was a big old mess up. There's a trail of them. I would say there's a few where Spurs have gone and done it. I know with hindsight, it maybe doesn't seem that way, but back in the summer of 2019, Tanguy Ndombele was he was one of the best young midfielders in Europe. He was incredible. And Spurs managed to, see off competition. If I remember, Juventus really wanted him, ironically, with Paratici. But Spurs got in there and they got the deal done. And maybe slightly similar to this, a lot of it was done kind of maybe on the quiet. Spurs, I understand that they're not best pleased that this news has got out. It's one that I think they would have wanted to keep under wraps a little bit longer to try and get it even further down the line. But yeah, Ndombele was brought in. Christian Romero, just last summer gone. Christian Romero is voted the best defender in Serie A, and Spurs went out there and they got him. So it does happen. It does happen. I understand there's a lot of, and I get it, trust me. As someone that's had to report on the transfers that haven't actually gone past a certain point, I completely understand the whole reluctance to get carried away. And that's why I'm not going to get myself absolutely carried away. But what I would say is there's a hope at Tottenham that they might be able to actually pull this one off. But we'll see where that goes. It's a transfer in the last few days of a window, which they can suddenly fall apart. We don't know fee-wise how close Spurs are getting or whether they just believe that Porto will come down to their level. Look, if you're not aware who Luis Diaz is, he's 25 years old, yet another 25-year-old in this window. So many 25-year-olds. Lo Celso, Ndombele, Dele Alli, Adama Traore was 25 until he turned 26. I think it was yesterday. I think Amrabat, who we're going to talk about as well, I think he's 25 as well. But Luis Diaz, he's Colombian, plays for Porto in the Portuguese league. He's got 16 goals and 6 assists from the left wing mainly for them. I think he's got 14 goals in 18 appearances in Liga NOS, the Portuguese league. He scored a couple of goals in the Champions League. You might have seen the goal he scored against Manchester City, which was a fantastic run. Left-hand side, cut inside, went through it past about 3-4 challenges and sent it back into the other corner. He's a top-class player, really is. He's got Champions League experience. He's a player that a lot of Premier League clubs have been keeping an eye on because there's a belief that he could adapt quite quickly to the Premier League. And I think with Spurs, their thinking is if they could give Conte a front three of Diaz, Kane, and Son, wow, that's a front three with a lot of goals in it. It really is. Obviously, you've got to provide the service, but then when you have players like Diaz, a little bit like Kane and Son, they can kind of create stuff themselves as well. Just thinking about that front three, they could be. We're seeing a Harry Kane who I think is starting to get back to where he needs to be. Sonny will be back after this international break. If they were able to get Diaz, wow, I know we did this, didn't we, with Bale, Son, and Kane, and we didn't really see it too much in the end. But with Diaz, it would be a very exciting piece of that puzzle. Like I say, predominantly plays on the left. He can play on the right. I do wonder whether Sonny would go to the right instead because he seems more comfortable able to play on both sides, Sonny. It may be that it's quite fluid and that Diaz and Son would go either side. Obviously, for Lucas, it probably means slightly less starts, but I think in terms of the amount of games to come anyway, if Diaz were to come in, I think you'd see a lot of rotation anyway. The reports in Italy suggest that Spurs have put in a bid of 45 million euros, which is about 37.6 million. Spurs have been very quiet. Digging around, all you can seem to get is that talks are ongoing, but officially, no confirmation of even that or any bids or anything. I think Spurs are trying to. They're in this situation where, of course, if it doesn't end up happening, then if they were to confirm that they were going for the player, then they look like Muppets, and it looks like another lost target, as it were. So I kind of get the silence. He's away at the moment on international duty with Colombia with Davinson Sanchez, Agent Sanchez. I'm sure people are probably calling him on social media. That's not to say that he'll be selling him the move, but I'm sure they must have had a chat about it. There's been kind of differing reports on the player himself, whether he'd be interested. I don't think Spurs would be this invested in it if they hadn't had an indication from his representatives that he would be. I understand Paratici has been talking to both Porto and the players' reps, so I'd be very surprised if the player was to suddenly turn down after all of that. It would be an odd way of going about it. I've seen that he apparently dreams of playing in the Premier League, so that would all tie in with that, really. But yeah, it's about that fee, of course. I think his release clause is 80 million euros, so that's almost double the 45 million euros that has been reportedly bid by Tottenham. And then I guess it's about kind of what happens and how far Spurs go up, how much is add-ons. I think this is one of these deals where, I think if Daniel Levy were to push it and for Spurs to push it, I don't think you're not only backing Conte, but I think you're backing Paratici as well. It's delivering an absolutely top-level player to Conte, but it's also saying to Paratici, okay, you love him? Yeah, all right, let's go for him. This is your call. You want him? Let's go for it. And I do think that's something where Spurs have fallen short in the past. We said about backing Conte in this window and how important it was to start the process. And this would be a major part of it. I think it's the kind of signing that also says something to the likes of Harry Kane. It says to him, like, don't even think about looking to move away or wanting to move in the summer because, we're going to get you this guy who, I think, like I say, he's got, 6 assists from the left wing as well. So he creates goals as well. So he will be someone that will supply Kane with the ammunition as well. So I think they'll have a lot of fun playing as a trio, those three. I really think they would. And it would add such an attacking element to, we sometimes have criticised Conte's setup as being slightly defensive, but if you've got those three up there, and it also creates competition as well. It may be that sometimes he only goes with, let's say he only goes for two of them. Then all three are kind of, Son and Diaz mainly are competing against each other, and that's good. That's what Tottenham need at the moment. They have what you'd say are 11 players who, once everyone comes back from injury, it's a very strong 11. But in terms of past that, then you're starting to struggle. But then, you throw Bergwijn in there, who looks to be finally, hopefully, finding his confidence. Bryan Gil as well is quite interesting. I don't know if you hadn't seen today or not, but there was a story that went out in the Spanish press about him being unsettled in England and struggling to adapt to the lifestyle, the culture and everything. He actually replied underneath the article with 4 question marks and a laughy cry face. So I think that probably tells you what Bryan Gil believes about his ability to adapt into England and how happy he is. Obviously, you look at that and maybe if he believes it's going to seriously impact his playing time, perhaps a loan move would help him just until the end of the season. There's a part of me that kind of thinks it's slightly ridiculous when, he only arrived 5 months ago, 6 months ago. I personally think he maybe would benefit more from just continuing to adapt to England and everything. If he says he's doing it well, then continue to adapt well. But yeah, I think from what I understand, if they were to sign Diaz, they would shelve probably, unless an incredible option or a good value option came up. I think the intention would be to probably shelve the striker move until the summer. And yes, I know that's pushing off a problem that's been around for so long. But what I would say is, it is true. It would be easier to buy for any other club. It would be easier to buy a striker in the summer. There's more options. Prices are lower. Whereas now, especially a striker who could probably do the job, there's less of them, or less likelihood of clubs allowing them to leave midway through a season when they're trying to fight for something. So what you'd probably see happen in this scenario would that if Diaz were to come in, then you'd have a real goal-scoring trio up front. God, how many? You could end up with 60 goals between them, perhaps for a season, not this season, but for next. And then what you've got is for the remainder of this season, you've got Steven Bergwijn that can play up front, as Conte said. And obviously, although Conte doesn't really see him there, you do also have Son that can play up there if needed as well. So perhaps just for the rest of this season as a backup to Kane, you go with Bergwijn and potentially Son, just because it's such a signing to be able to get Diaz, and that's why you prioritise that. That's what I'm led to believe. You never know, though. In the last couple of days of the window, suddenly some loan option might turn up, another Carlos Vinicius type, and they might think, well, you know what? It's comparatively cheap. Let's bring him in and just have him as backup. But yeah, like I say, I'm really intrigued to see what happens with Traore now. It's gone so quiet on that. We kind of understood it was talks had got to a certain stage, and then it was just a matter of time. But certainly in recent days, it's all gone very quiet, and Spurs putting out their, or certainly noises within the Spurs coming out that there hadn't been a bid made. Wolves coming out of there, that it's all been very quiet. So I just wonder. This is just, honestly, it's purely me wondering. It may be that Spurs end up in an ideal scenario getting Diaz and Traore. But I just wonder whether they've now decided, look, Diaz is, with no offence to Adama Traore, but Diaz is a winger who has an end product. He absolutely has, and we've seen that. We've seen that at the very top level in the Champions League as well. So maybe they've just thought, look, maybe we go for Diaz, we get him now, we get a real coup of a player and beat other clubs for him, and then in the summer we either look at Traore again or we look at an actual right wing back, perhaps. Again, that is just me spitballing. It's just me wondering, and purely on the kind of what I've been getting is this feeling that Diaz is actually the hopes. There's kind of more hope of that happening right now than there is on Traore, and that's maybe what it is. I still think they'll look to get that central midfielder in because that is something that Conte has specifically asked for. There's a lot of talk now, growing talk about it potentially being Sofiane Amrabat. And the reason is that Conte apparently likes him. So, yes, I admit I'm one of those who's looked at him and looked at kind of what he's done this season and looked at what people have said about him. And you kind of think, it's a bit one of those. But, everyone on social media, and myself included in these videos and the articles, have said the club have got to back Conte and do what he wants. And if he wants this player, and it all sounds like, there's potential of a loan deal for him with an option. If you're bringing in a loan player with to cover that midfield area, and that's what Conte's asked for, and it's a player that he likes, I suppose it gets into that slightly no-brainer territory. If he's available and he's not that expensive and it's someone the manager wants, you just do it, I think I said before, he's the same agency as Bale, Roden and Ben Davies, ICM Stella, which probably helps in terms of negotiations because I know him well. I don't think there'd be any problems in him wanting to come to Tottenham either. AC Milan, looking at him before, he's Dutch-born Morocco international. He is also, like Frank Kessie, who we've spoken before, he is away at the African Cup of Nations. I think Morocco were playing yesterday. I completely forgot to check on how they did. So there may be people under the comments now saying, oh, they went out, or they may have stayed in. I don't know, I'll be honest with you. I really should have probably looked that up before speaking about a Morocco international, but I just kind of suddenly decided, you know what, I'm going to do a video. And yes, sometimes brains and thoughts go out of the window slightly. But yeah, it's not the most exciting signing in the world. And there's a part of me that does wonder whether you're potentially trying to get rid of 3 attacking central midfielders, creative ones, and you're replacing them with someone who sounds more like a defensive midfielder to add to the 3 defensive midfielders you've already got. It doesn't seem like a straight swap for me, but it does provide more cover, I guess, in that area. And then maybe, I suppose, if you've got a Diaz, maybe that's, I have had people tell me this before about Conte, that he prefers in those 2 slots in the middle for them to be more holding players anyway, and then he prefers the front players to do the damage. So maybe that would be the idea, is that you have 2 more slightly restrained midfielders, albeit ones like Harry Winks has shown that can play a through ball if needed. But then it's all about those 3 up front. Conte kind of has 2 number 10s who can either tuck in behind Kane or they can go out wide and kind of overlap with the wing backs. And obviously Diaz, he'd fit quite nicely into that. More so going out wide, but having seen him kind of drift inside and dribble inside, he's more than capable of coming inside as well. So, yeah. So that's, it could be really exciting. Again, I've seen what social media is like, and if there's a move that doesn't happen, you get all of this. Oh, it's a smoke screen. It's this. It's that. It's everything. What I can tell you is Spurs are genuinely trying to sign Luis Diaz. They are. It's not a smoke screen. A smoke screen would be something that kind of wouldn't be true. You wouldn't be getting the reports from over here and also over in Portugal and in Italy as well. I think it's a genuine attempt, and it's a genuine attempt for a very exciting player. And if it comes off, brilliant. If it doesn't, I don't think, there's this kind of belief that people will then look at Tottenham and go, oh, well done for trying. No one does that. I don't think Tottenham, anyone within that club, are expecting to receive that kind of pat on the back for a failed attempt. You just try to sign a player, and if you suddenly feel that there's a window to sign an incredibly good player, that's what you try to do. And let's hope it happens, because I tell you what, look, my thoughts on Adama Traore and my hopes on him being improved greatly by Conte, because I feel he'd have to be. But if you bring someone like Luis Diaz in, there's a lot less work to be done. That's a player who will scare defences because of his end product, not just because he's very big and fast, and skillful. Traore is skillful as well. But Diaz has that finishing ability. He's got that ability to create chances for others as well. And personally, I don't know about you. By all means, tell me in the comments below. But personally, if I had to choose between the two, and the choice was to get in Traore as a converted wing-back or get Diaz as a winger and just keep Matt Doherty and Emerson as the right wing-backs, I think I'd go with Matt Doherty and Emerson purely for the ability to get Luis Diaz in, who is a top-table footballer. He really is. He would, he would fit in at any of those top clubs, and that's my only fear now. Apart from the fact that Spurs mucking around with the price and not paying the full amount. But the other fear is obviously as another club comes in and goes, oh, for that price, that's really good. Let's go in there and go for it. And it may be that it's a club, say, in the Champions League or something. That would be my only fear. In terms of other little bits and pieces we can tidy up, Jack Clarke has gone on loan to Sunderland. I put out that yesterday saying he had a medical today and that's all gone fine. He's moved there. Good move for him. It is a good move for him. It allows him to get out there and play some regular football, hopefully, as well. It's a good club. It's a big club that's down the leagues at the moment, but I think it's probably a good move for him. And it'll be good for his development. And then obviously we see where we go in the summer with Jack Clarke and Spurs as well. He's it just never really worked for him. It's one of those transfers I think we'll look back at and wonder why Tottenham did it from all rounds. And that's not to have a dig at Jack Clarke. It's almost like he's like a toy that's been bought and then stuck on a shelf. It hasn't really worked for any side. Who else? Oh, there's a Hull winger, Keane Lewis Potter, who is, I think he's 20. He's one that Spurs have been showing a little bit of interest in. I think they've spoken to his representatives, just kind of setting up future stuff. I don't think that's likely to be something that they'd move on this month. I think that's more one for the summer. I don't think there's been any talks between Hull and Spurs at all. I think it's just a case of just sounding out and seeing where the future lies for the kid. Talented young player that I think a lot of clubs have got their eye on right now. And it's Spurs missed out on the last kind of decent winger that came out of Hull. That was Jared Bowen, who they chose Jack Clarke over going for Jared Bowen, and I think we can see that Jared Bowen's gone on and done very well. And perhaps this is a case of trying not to make the same mistake twice, perhaps. Keep an eye on him, potentially for the summer. But I think there may be a few clubs in for him. He's doing very well, very young, talented player, and let's see where he goes. So I think that's really it today. Like I say, it was just me kind of jumping on because I thought I had to spare 20 minutes or so. Let's jump on. Let's do a quick video and then try and say where we are right now. Of course, the way the transfer window works, even tonight there could be more stuff that updates on this, and I'm sure we'll get lots of highs and lows, and there'll be, oh my god, it's not going to happen, oh my god, it is going to happen, oh no, it's not. I remember this with Tongi. With Romero, it was quite plain sailing. It always kind of felt like it was going to happen. With Tongi, I remember there were some proper ups and downs, and even Orlas was coming out, wasn't he, and saying various things about Spurs not going to get him, or they had to do much more and all that. So I'm sure we'll see lots of ups and downs, and Portuguese media saying different things, Colombian media probably saying stuff as well, and the Italian media because of the Paratici and Conte side of things, and the English media. So bear with it. It'll all be done Monday evening. I think there's a lot more to come. Honestly, from what I understand, Paratici, I think, is working on a number of deals. But before you get carried away with that, I'm sure you wouldn't because you're Spurs fans anyway, so you have that natural level of cynicism that's probably healthy. When I say I think he's working on quite a few deals, that's the way Paratici works in terms of getting deals to a certain stage with players' reps and stuff and sounding out clubs, and then it's about when the club do decide to make that move, bang, 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 they can choose exactly who they want to go for. Doesn't always work, but it may actually be something that works better in the kind of frenzied nature of the end of this window when they need to make 2 or 3 deals, hopefully. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on the Diaz and Traore thing, whether it becomes an either-or situation. It'll be really interesting to see. Maybe it hinges on whether Traore would be a loan. If he's a loan and you're buying Diaz outright, then perhaps it's not as much of a financial hit right now. Don't forget that obviously they do have to pay out the rest of the Romero money if they're going to make that happen. Same with Galini, so that's another almost 55, 60 million that they'll have to spend at the end of the season. So maybe they don't want to add too much on that in the summer, I don't know. But like I say, from what I understand, Diaz is the priority. If they can get that done, great. And then they'll kind of try and make other things happen as well. But fingers crossed. I don't know how the complexity of him being on international duty with Colombia, what that adds to it. Whether I'm sure you could do a medical over there. But yeah, keep an eye on it. And I will try and do another video before the end of the transfer window if I can. Obviously, work is quite busy as well, but I will certainly try and squeeze one in maybe at the weekend. And yeah, so there you go. Little quick update for you, and fingers crossed we've got more exciting stuff to talk about and it doesn't end up being a dud. My gut tells me it's not. I think we're going to see movement. I do think we're going to see movement, and hopefully exciting movement as well. So there you go. Right, as always, stay healthy, stay safe, and look after yourselves, and I shall catch you later. Goodbye.